In a world full of bad news, this podcast is a source of good news, real talk, and real inspiration. On this show, you'll hear stories of growth, legacy, and entrepreneurship. Everyday people who overcome real challenges to build something meaningful. My name is Stephen Padernacht, third generation Bronx born and raised in the real estate game. This is the Padernacht Podcast, brick by brick. Okay, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Padernacht Podcast. I don't even know what episode we're up to. I think it's 20. Claudio, what episode are we at? I think we're at 23. Yeah, I think we're at 23, but the thumbnail on this video is going to show you exactly what episode we're at. I got to get that in tune. I got to realize what episode we're at. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Padernacht Podcast. Today we're going to do a solo episode. We're going to just do some Q&A. This is not going to be a long episode, but again, I think it's super important for me to just kind of express myself and who I am. And I've learned that by sharing more, it's allowed me to reach a wider audience. And not necessarily a wider audience is always so good, but reach the people who want to be reached, right? Like, you know, certain people just don't want to do business with certain people. And by sharing who I am, it allows me to be put in front of the people that actually want to do business with me. And not necessarily from a business standpoint, but even from a friendship standpoint, an emotional standpoint, whatever the case may be. My goal with this podcast is to just share my story and touch as many people as possible. So today I'm going to answer some questions on Instagram for those of you who are not following me, at Steve_Pad. What I did a couple weeks ago was I put one of those cool little stories where it's like, you know, ask me any question. And I got a couple of these questions back and I wanted to dive into them to just, you know, answer some of them. I did answer on Instagram, but I wanted to just share it here as well. I figured putting it in long form content might help a little bit, right? So the first question that I'm going to answer is why I chose to partner with Keller Williams. I think I've answered this question before, but you know, I was an individual broker for a very long time. I got my first license back in 2003, 2004, and in real estate, you have to be a salesperson working under a broker for your first 2 years. And then if you do enough sales and you qualify, you could take what's called a broker's test. Now, once you take that broker's test, which I did, and I passed, you are allowed to operate your own brokerage. Now, I did that from, you know, again, I'm ballparking here, but I'd say like 2007, you know, for at least 10 years I did that. And what I learned during that time was that I didn't have all the answers. And I would have people coming to me asking me to help them in real estate. And while I knew a lot, and I'll never say that I know everything about real estate because I don't, but while I knew a lot, I didn't have the infrastructure, I didn't have the training, I didn't have the ability to really grow at that point. So I was introduced to Keller Williams by a friend of mine, and I met a gentleman by the name of Jamal Hadi. Now, Jamal had started a Keller Williams brokerage up in, I believe he was in Eastchester at the time, and they're still in the same location, just a new building. But when I met him, everything just seemed to flow. The guy spoke my language. He seemed extremely genuine, and he seemed extremely interested in my story and helping me grow. And he was able to show me about the KW culture. And I always tell people that the culture in KW is second to none. I mean, it is a company that is built for agents who want to excel and grow a business. A lot of brokerages out there will help you sell real estate. A lot of brokerages will, you know, help you with technology or help you with this or that. But KW, in my mind, is the best when it comes to helping agents grow businesses. And that's what really drew me to them, was their culture. And their culture is based off of God, family, then business, which is extremely important to me. And it just kind of spoke my language. But the culture of KW, a culture of giving, a culture of putting God first, then family, then your business, and then also put on top of everything was the fact that they were going to help me grow my business and not just treat real estate as a job. So that's why I partnered with Keller Williams. And listen, I'll never say never, but I find it very, very, very hard to believe that I would go to any other brokerage at this point after being with them for so long. It's just the entire KWRI, which is Keller Williams Realty International, the amount of training that they put out, the amount of assistance that they give to agents just for free, just by being involved in their company, is absolutely tremendous. So that's why I partnered with Keller Williams. All right, next question. How I created a real estate portfolio. Okay, so we've talked about this on a couple of episodes before, but I'll dive into my story a bit. And my story is a bit unique. I grew up in a household where real estate was a language. It was a love language, for lack of better terms. But my father was heavily ingrained in real estate. My grandfather was involved in real estate. I have other uncles and other family members that are involved in real estate. So I grew up in a household where we talked about real estate. We talked about properties. We talked about, what a good deal was. I mean, I remember being 16 years old and my dad would have me look at the New York Times, on Sunday mornings looking for deals. And I was like, Dad, I don't know what I'm looking for. And he gave me 3 or 4 different sort of indicators to look for. And then he would take the time to explain it to me. So I say all this to say that when I started building my portfolio, I was able to partner with somebody who was extremely ambitious, and I didn't necessarily have the funds to start building my own portfolio. But what I did have was I had an extreme amount of experience dealing with tenants, dealing with repairs, renovations, construction, different market conditions. And the gentleman that I partnered up with, he didn't necessarily have that same experience, but he had financing and he had backing. So we partnered up together and we started with a 3-family home. Now, this 3-family home we still have to this day. And we're talking about, we're in 2025. I think first property that I was ever a part of was, I want to say 2012 was when my dad, 2009, my dad died. I'd say probably 2012, maybe 2013. So I've had this property for 13 years and it was a good deal. It just goes to show you it was a good deal. It cash flows. And we were able to take that property, and then what we did was we leveraged that property and we bought another property. And then we just we rinsed and repeated. We were able to use leverage and be able to continue growing. And one thing that I will say is that we weren't scared to take risks. Now, granted, they were calculated risks, but what we did was we were able to, say, hey, look, worst case scenario, this project completely goes to the shits. At least we know that this is going to be our exit strategy. And it's very important for people to understand, if you're getting into this business and you don't potentially have the money, I think that's what I'm going to say the lesson of this is. If you don't have the money to start in real estate, learn the business. Go on all these different websites, talk to different people, start valuing deals, start learning what a good deal is, what a not a good deal is. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Like, if a property makes money, then potentially it could be a good deal. I see so many deals out there where it's a 2-family home, 3-family home that make absolutely no sense. And they're actually negative cash flow. There's calculators out there that you can go and you could look up as far as an investment calculator to see if a property makes money. Now, how much money it makes will then determine your percentage of return. So let's say, for example, you buy a house for $600,000. That $600,000 house, you got to put down 10%. So you're putting up $60,000. Let's say the home, after all your payments, mortgage, taxes, insurance, water, maintenance, let's say that property, I don't know, let's say it nets $6,000. So cash on cash return for that property is approximately 10%. So think about it. If you put your money in the stock market or you put your money in a savings account, are you going to make more than 10%? That's how you should value a deal. And I was able to use my experience in real estate and partner with somebody else so that way I can get into doing real estate myself. And that's how I was able to get into real estate and start growing my portfolio. Let's see here. Next question. What struggles does an entrepreneur face? Well, listen, I've definitely talked about this before, but it's a very common theme, and it's something that people are very interested in, obviously, because I keep seeing this question over and over and over and over again. Entrepreneurs face daily, I don't even want to say daily, I want to say like by the minute struggles. First of all, you're questioning your confidence, you're questioning your ability, you're questioning the what you're doing. Like, why am I doing this? So entrepreneurs face the confidence struggles. They face the struggles of, am I doing the right thing? You know how many times I've thought, like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna go get a job because that's gonna probably be a whole lot easier than trying to figure this out. But then I realized that like my personality just doesn't fit into a box, which is what I personally feel most employers want. They want an employee that's gonna fit into a box and it's not going to necessarily try to buck any trends and make sure that they're going to, do what they need to do. Now, that's not my personality. So I choose to be an entrepreneur. I choose to be in business. I choose to try to grow my own business and my own money and be responsible. I've told the story about how my father told me that, like, when I got out of college, it was, hey, I'll give you $500 a week and I'll teach you how to never depend on somebody for a check ever again, or you can go out there and get a job. At 23, 24 years old, I knew at that moment that that's what I wanted to do. So entrepreneurs face, confidence struggles. We face financial struggles, right? Like, 1 month might be good. The next month might not be might be bad. You might not have the money to pay the bills. You might have to borrow from somebody else. But I'll tell you what we do as entrepreneurs, the good ones at least, is we figure it the heck out. We make sure that what we're doing is aligned with where the goals are and our daily activities. And we make sure that, no matter what, there is no plan B. I've got something right here on my computer. It's a sticker from this company called Steel Monkey. Big shout out to Steel Monkey. It's burn the boats. There is no plan B. Like, either I'm going to be a top real estate agent and sell homes for people here in the Bronx or not. Like, there is no plan B. I don't even think about it, honestly. Like, that's just what I'm going to do. That's who I am. That's what I epitomize. I tell this to people all the time, that you have to live, breathe, eat, and pardon my language, but you have to shit your business. You have to live it, breathe it, understand it. Like, it has to exude out of your pores. So nobody that talks to me doesn't know that I'm in real estate. It's not happening, because this is what I do. This is how I make my money. This is how I earn a living. And I feel like that's something that most entrepreneurs, they're a part-time entrepreneur. Hey, on the weekends, I'm going to do this. On the weeknights, I'm going to do this. But during the day, I'm going to do this. Like, nah, you can't do that, right? And I'm not saying that there's not a such thing as, part-time and learning your way into the business. But what I'm saying is that, like, you have to be obsessed with it. And you have to, in the beginning, until you hit that 10,000 hour mark and you're an expert in your business, you got to put those hours in. You got to take your lumps and you got to continue fighting on and say, you know what, no matter what, there is no plan B, and this is what I'm doing. So that's my advice for, some people that are looking to become entrepreneurs and some of the struggles that we may face. Oh, this is interesting. So, I don't know if you could see this, but this, I wear 2 bracelets, right? So the first bracelet is a black bracelet, and it was a cool company. I saw it, and it's called Call the Damn Leads. Big shout out to them. They're an awesome company, cool gear. But the reddish color bracelet, what this says is faith, courage, hope, and MSKCC. This bracelet, my dad died on February 2nd, 2009, and MSKCC stands for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. They have different colors for different types of cancer, but when my father died, the nurse, or I don't even remember who it was, somebody gave us all this bracelet. Now, this is probably my 5th or 6th reiteration of this bracelet, because I've worn them literally, like, the expression of rock my tape till my tape pop. Like, this bracelet has popped so many times. But I always keep this bracelet on. And this bracelet is a reminder that my father is always with me. He's inside of me. He is a part of who I am, who my being is. And that's what this bracelet is. If for those of you who may know my two brothers or my mom, like we all have a version of this bracelet, and I'm suffice to say that that's why they wear it as well. But for me particularly, like this bracelet is always a reminder. So when I'm going through something tough, when I'm have to make a tough decision, I look down and I remember, and it gives me hope and faith and courage to be able to make those decisions and to do what I think my father would want me to do in that situation. How do I wake up at 4 a.m. every day? All right, this is let me tell you, for those of you who know me for a long time, know that I was never, ever, ever a morning person. I was the type of guy that would, sleep until 10, 11, even noon sometimes. Something clicked, really, I think it was during COVID. And during COVID, I realized that life was just extremely short. And I realized that I didn't necessarily have the time that I thought I did. A good friend of mine and fellow entrepreneur, Jose Lopez, shout out to my boy Jose, put me onto this call, and it was the 5 a.m. call. And this call was a free phone number that you called at 5 a.m. every morning. It lasted anywhere from 60 seconds to 2 minutes. And it was a pre-recorded person. And usually it was somebody famous. Like one day they had Kanye West, one day they had Steve, like all these different people. And it would just be a motivation for the day. But you had to log on at 5 a.m. So I gave myself the obstacle or the challenge to say, you know what, I'm going to make it on this call every morning to help give myself motivation. So I started doing that. And let me tell you something, guys. When you first start waking up early in the morning, if you're not a morning person, it sucks. That first week, 2 weeks, even 3 weeks, it sucks because your body's so out of whack. But what happens is over time, your body starts adjusting. And I believe it's called the circadian rhythm. My man Claudio correcting me over here. So that thing right there, however you want to pronounce it, is absolutely amazing because your body starts setting its own clock. And now at this point in my life, after doing it for the past, 5, 6 years, even on the weekends, I'm getting up 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So, I would say that it has benefited me the most because it just gives me extra time in the day. They always say that everybody has the same 24 hours. It's what you do in those 24 hours that really matters. But imagine you did I think it was Kobe who said it, where it's like, hey, if I'm putting in these extra hours over time, it's going to turn into the separation gap between me and my competition is going to be so wide that they're never going to be able to catch up. So think about it, right? Like if you want to be an entrepreneur and you can't find the time, just wake up earlier. Now, again, I understand people have situations. You may have children. You may have different things going on. Maybe you work a job, whatever the case may be. But just understand that excuses don't pay the bills. There's only two types of people in this world. There's people who make excuses and people who make it happen. I always tell people, which one do you want to be? Nobody ever says, I want to be the excuse maker, but then they come with an excuse. Just be the type of person that makes it happen. And for me, waking up in the morning helps me make it happen. Now, do I have it all figured out? Absolutely not. Do I mess up on a daily basis? Absolutely so. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely. But one thing is for certain, my heart is pure. I come from a stance of providing value to people, and I want to leave a legacy on this planet that is actually the amount of lives that I touched is in the positive and not the negative. So waking up early allows me to do that. And what I now do is once you wake up early every single morning for a certain amount of time, you start getting tired earlier. Like by 9 o'clock, I'm exhausted. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I'm exhausted. I eat dinner and I'm like, all right, cool. I can't even sit there and watch Netflix anymore. So just think about all the positive stuff that it does. And usually in the morning, I'm focused on, and I think I've talked about my morning routine before, but I'm focused on, mental, physical, and emotional well-being, also spiritual well-being. So I'm putting those 4 things first before 8 o'clock every morning. how close is my competition going to be able to stay to me if I'm focused on those 4 things every single morning? So that's how and why I wake up early. Here's a good one. I'm 20-something years old. How can I buy real estate? So, it's interesting because a lot of people think that maybe they're too young to get involved in real estate. But, once you're 18 years old or however old you are, guess who's knocking at your door asking you to build a line of credit, right? Those are the credit card companies. They're literally knocking at your door trying to give you lines of credit. Buying real estate most of the time involves taking out a loan from a bank. So if you're 20-something years old, and let's just say you got your first credit card when you were 18 and you were able to, not get stuck in the college debt situation where you're just running up credit cards and not paying them, right? Let's assume you have good credit. You turn around and all you're missing at that point is you're missing the ability to have the down payment, which now you could probably do anywhere as low as 3 to 3.5% down. And then you got to worry about income. Now, income is something that is interesting because if you're 20-something years old, let's assume that you're 23, 24, right? You do need to have some sort of income coming in. But today there's so many different products out there that you can get creative with. Or go back to my earlier point, right? Partner up with somebody that does have good income. Maybe you've been busting your hump from the time you were 18 years old, going to class, doing really well, and you got a degree, let's say, in something that didn't really have a lot of flexibility after you graduated and you wanted to get into real estate. Go partner up with somebody. I promise you that if you have the deal and you have the knowledge, it's a lot easier for you to find the money. Okay. My dad used to always say that the deal is the hardest part. And there's 10 buyers for every good deal, right? But there's not 10 deals for every buyer. So don't focus so much on the fact that you don't have the money and thinking that is this unattainable goal. Focus on educating yourself, learning what a good deal is. Download an investment calculator. It's extremely accessible online. Go to different websites. Bigger Pockets is a great website for beginners and for people who are starting out in real estate to start learning the lingo. Go to meetup.com, right? And type in Bronx real estate networking. I guarantee you things are going to pop up. Right now, if you're listening to this and you want to get into real estate, do me a favor. Pause the video, go to meetup.com and type in whatever city or state you're in and type in real estate networking group. I promise you that within the next 30 days, you could put yourself in a room with other real estate people. And what you'll do at those meetings is you'll just meet them and say, hey, look, I'm brand new to this, right? And I want to get involved. What should I do? And those people will start guiding you and you'll start building relationships with those people. So those are some things I would do. And I would tell a younger 20-something-year-old who may think that they're not able to get into real estate to do. Network, keep your credit impeccable. It's crazy the way credit is so important in our lives today. It's literally becoming like your identification number, right? Like if you don't have good credit, it's almost as like you're a bad person. Now, obviously we know that there's plenty of wonderful people out there that don't have good credit, but on paper, they're going to think that you're a deadbeat. So keep your credit impeccable. Okay. Always make those minimum payments. Worst case scenario. Okay. Don't get 30, 60, 90s because those things are extremely difficult to get off your credit report. And then go out there. I think I said, learn, network, keep your credit good. Those are 3 things that you can focus on. If you have any other questions regarding real estate and you're a 20-something-year-old watching this right now, or listen, maybe you're a 40-something-year-old, maybe you're a 50-something-year-old. Honestly, there is such a low barrier for people to get involved into real estate that I want people to understand that if it is your dream and your goal to get into real estate, then it is attainable. And burn the boats. There is no plan B, okay? That's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening to this episode, and I'll see you guys next week. This is Steve Padernacht, another episode of Brick by Brick, the Padernacht Podcast. Take care, guys. In a world full of bad news, this podcast is a source of good news. Real talk and real inspiration.